Hey everyone, welcome to r/Tales from Tech Support, where we get to have a little chuckle at the technologically disadvantaged. Like me. I'm Uncle Reddit, and have I got a story for you. I'm an engineer. This happened back when I was in my last year in college, and I was an intern for a textile company in their IT department. My senior, who was a chill dude, was one that kept me company during my stay, and he was the one who I picked up most of my skills from. We'll call him Jay. Now one day we had this one request that came in from one of the officers in another department, who we'll call Max. So Max complained that his desktop PC, an Intel Pentium 4, wouldn't turn on. Jay and I went to his office to check it out. The computer wouldn't turn on. We tried all the standard troubleshooting stuff from changing the PSU, reseating the RAM, CPU, and video card, but nothing worked. Finally, Jay told me to grab the test motherboard of the same brand and model, it was an Asus board from what I can remember, we had from storage, and so I brought it to him. We swapped out the motherboard, and lo and behold, the PC turned on and started to work. So Jay went over to Max and told him that he had a faulty motherboard. Max asked further what could have caused the board to fail. Jay said he wouldn't know unless more testing was done, but he said it could be anything from a bad chip, blown capacitor, or a factory defect of some sort. Now Max was an electrical engineer by trade, so he thought it could be easily fixed by resoldering some parts. He had a tester so he could figure out which chips, capacitors, or whatever was blown, and just simply replace it by resoldering a new part onto it. Jay explained that it wasn't as simple as that, but Max said he could probably fix the motherboard on his own. Jay did try to dissuade him, to no avail. In the end, Max asked us to hand over the defective board so that he could fix it himself and save the company a few extra bucks. A few days later, one of my co-interns brought in Max's PC and there was a label on it that said, "For repair." I was curious as to what had happened. Jay came in later, and when he saw Max's PC in our work desk, he just rolled his eyes. When we opened the PC, we saw some solder blobs on some capacitors near the video card, and there was a faint burnt smell coming off of it. I never got to work on it, but I heard from my co-intern that Jay tested it later in the day and found out the CPU was dead and the RAM had become faulty, causing Windows XP to crash to a blue screen almost every time when he tested them on another motherboard. Our head IT boss never reissued a new desktop computer to Max ever since and gave him a used laptop instead. From time to time, when me and Jay would pass by Max, he would just give us a blank look and ignore us completely. Yeah, back when I had my own carpentry business, I had a customer, well, he was almost a customer, who requested a price quote for putting a roof vent in his house. His attic would get a little hot, so he wanted a thermostat-controlled fan. And you've seen them, well, if you're in the US, you've seen them on the outside of some houses. They look like a mushroom cap on the roof of your house. And, yeah, he thought it was as simple as just cutting the hole, plugging it in, and setting the thermostat. Well, what he didn't know, or didn't care to research, was that, cutting the hole's fairly easy, getting between the rafters and everything, but once you get it mounted, you got to get it watertight. And he thought just caulking the flange and slapping it on top of the shingles was going to do it. He ruined a big portion of his roof, things in his attic. The electrical shorted out and the fan never did work right. So, all in the name of saving a few bucks. Being anti-tech support for a friend's company. At some time or other, we've all had bosses who are not entirely conducive to team morale. My friend has a boss like this. She's putting up with it as he's a 2-month end of maternity leave cover, but this company has computers that lock every 5 minutes, unadjustable, and both toilet and drink areas are over 2 minutes walk away. The boss doesn't understand the work and therefore can only figure out how to micromanage this one thing. He has a software tracker on his computer that gives him access to the number and lengths of the lockouts. And he drives my friend, Helen, and her colleague, his only 2 workers, up the wall with it. So Helen asked if I could change the lockout length of her computer. Not really. Difficult at best if I actually had access to the PC, but just telling her what to do? No way. But then it came down to a simple solution of a non-software nature. I had a lot of old wireless mice laying around that still worked perfectly well. Now, if they're stepping away from their desk, they just pass the mouse to their colleague. They move the mouse for each other when they're away from their desks. Neither elegant nor long-term, but keeping an idiot off her back for a few months should work okay for that. There's almost nothing in this world worse than working for a micromanager. Ram that RAM in. I was on site replacing RAM for one of the finance guys at my workplace. That day, me and him just matched, in terms of outfit we wore. We both had short brown hair, relatively skinny, same build size, white shirts, black pants. He leaves to let me replace his RAM. I go under the desk to start opening up the computer. The following dialogue takes place. Sales lady walks in to talk to the finance guy, not realizing he left and she's actually talking to me, who's under the desk. Sales lady: "What are you doing, idiot?" I've been called way worse on the job, so I just went along with it. It didn't bother me. Lol. Me, albeit a little confused. Replacing the RAM in this computer? Sales lady: "Yeah, you ran that RAM in there," implying an inappropriate joke. Me, with a smirk on my face: "You don't know who you're talking to, do you?" Sales lady sits down on the chair for customers, pulls out her phone. "I know who I'm talking to, you freaking weirdo." Me, pops head from behind desk with huge smile on my face. OMG, her face looked like she just witnessed a murder. Sales lady with a huge gasp: "Oh my god, I'm so sorry, I didn't realize. You and him are both in the same outfit, I'm so sorry." And again, I'm just laughing my butt off, and then it gets better because the other guy walks in and looks super confused. I lost it. I was on the ground weak as heck. Once she explained the situation that just ensued and we all had a good laugh, I finished ramming the RAM in there and went on my way once he was booted up and good to go. It was just so perfect. It made my day. Gotta watch that kind of stuff in the current climate. Back in the day, we could joke around with stuff like that, but I don't know if I'd do that with anybody, even if I did have a good relationship with them in this day and age. Missed a troubleshooting step. Client makes sure the mistake is branded on my soul. Client emailed in with a screenshot of an error they were getting when trying to use a feature in the system. This particular feature is something maybe only 6 clients out of our entire user base still actually utilize, and I haven't seen a question come into our queue on it in a year and a half. I checked the feature they indicated and couldn't reproduce the error. I emailed the client back asking what steps they were taking to produce said error. This was after double checking his screenshot. He only sent a screenshot of the error, not the actual thing he clicked on to produce it. About 15 minutes later, he calls in and asks for me. He tells me that the error is being produced on the other tab that controls the feature that had apparently blanked itself out in my brain. Nope, I don't know why this old as F feature is split up into 2 entire sections. He goes on for a bit about how he wished I'd taken the extra step to see it, but isn't necessarily nasty about it, just disappointed. I apologized more than once for the error, and now that he's indicated where it came from, I'm able to reproduce it. I let him know I'm on my way to submit a bug report to our development team. He reiterates that it should have been easy for me to see and that he again wished I'd taken the next step, but that it happens. Later, after notifying him of the bug being created per procedure, he sends an email back in reply saying thank you, and again that he wishes I'd taken the next step in troubleshooting, but understands that it was an error. More apologizing from me. A couple hours later, there's a CSAT rating of satisfied in my inbox. It goes happy, satisfied, unhappy. I'll give you 3 guesses what his rating description said, and the first 2 don't count. I will wholly and 100% admit that I could have simply not been a sleep-deprived idiot and clicked around a little more to find the error. Yet, I also maintain the stance that this guy unnecessarily went out of his way to ensure the mistake was hammered into my brain. I don't know if this guy's married or has kids or anything, but if he's anything like that at home, like he is with you at work, he must be a joy to be around. I love people who never forget a mistake. Let it go. Grandpa's digital camera doesn't work at all. This story is from before I was really in IT, since I was still in high school. This story takes place around 2002 to 2004. I was the go-to tech support for my maternal grandparents. My grandfather had just bought a new, pretty early digital camera and was having fun with it, trying to figure out how the machine worked using the manual. He got pretty far with it, but kept running into an error, so he phoned me. It sounded pretty strange to me. Every time he snapped a picture, his Sony would tell him there was an error. But the picture was there and it was good. So on my bicycle I hopped to pay them a visit. Once I had the camera in my hands, I was able to take pictures and didn't notice anything wrong with it. I didn't even see the error message my grandfather had been having issues with. So I hand it back to him, and the first picture he takes displays the error message again, according to him. So we repeat the steps now, both looking at the display to find out what goes wrong. So he snaps a picture and directly says, "There it is!" Storing is what it says. It clicked for me. The camera had been set up to use the Dutch language, not the English language, though somehow this message was still in English. I didn't register the discrepancy, but there it was. Storing in Dutch means malfunction or failure, not to write a file to memory and store it there. It was one of my first lessons in rule number 1, users lie, even though this user really thought he was getting an error message. That's too funny. Yeah, I probably would have thought the same thing if I was, setting everything up in Dutch and saw the word storing come up. It was supposed to be in Dutch, and if that means error, fine. Granddad wasn't wrong. I can't reset my password. Literally. As an independent consultant, I see all kinds of tech support issues, but the best stories never seem to come from my regular clients. Instead, they almost always come from contract gigs I use to fill in some of the slow times. Here's a quick story about one such incident. The scene. I'm on a 3-month contract, essentially on call as overflow phone support. It was an easy gig. I just sat at home, and when the call center got too busy, they would start switching over tickets to some of us remote guys. All I had to do was be available between certain hours and have a quick turnaround on the first touch. This was in the beginning days of the pandemic when everyone had just started working from home. Most of my tickets were easy, such as VPN connection issues or provide quick tutorials on video conferencing solutions. I was happy to be at home and have work that would keep me there for a little bit as the entire world went to heck in a handbasket. Ticket. Password reset. The call center must have been getting slammed early on this particular day because I woke up and immediately had a ticket. That almost never happens. However, no big deal. Just log on, check the status, do a quick update, and contact the user. I'll call him Jim. He picks right up. Me. Hello, I see you have a problem resetting your password to access the network via the VPN. Jim. Yeah, I've tried the reset password features about a dozen times now, and every stupid time it just errors out. Me. Okay, let me check a few things. I browse his user profile and everything looks okay. He's not suspended or locked out. Figuring that he must just be typing the wrong password over and over again, I do reset his password in the admin portal to start troubleshooting. Me. Okay, I reset your password on the network. Try to log in, but use the password XXX. Jim. Gotcha, just a sec. Great, that worked. Me. Maybe you were just typing the wrong password over and over again. Sometimes it happens. Jim. Okay, now I need to sign out and reset my password though. Me. Do you mean you want to set it to something other than the one I just gave you? Jim. Yeah, the one you gave me isn't my password. Me. A little confused. Well, I reset your password to that, but I can set it so the next time you log in, you can set your password to whatever you like. Jim. Yeah, I need to change it back to my password so everything works. Me. Still confused. Everything should work if you use that password, but if you want to change it, that's not a problem. Jim. Look, I told you that is not my password. I need to set it back to my password. Me. Confused but giving in at this point. Okay, I've set your user profile so the next time you log in, it will prompt you to input a new password. Do you want to try while I'm on the phone? Jim. Yeah, let me give it a try. I wait about 90 seconds, hearing Jim pounding away on his keyboard and cursing. Finally, frustrated, he gets back on the line. Jim. See, now it won't take my password. What the heck is going on here? Me. Let me reset your password back to XXX and try it again. It works with the same result, so clearly Jim must not be entering the password confirmation correctly. Jim. But I still need to change the password back to my password. Me. Okay, let me set it so you can reset the password at your next login once again. If it doesn't work, you can send me a screenshot of the error? Jim. Yeah, no problem. Let me try this all again. Another 90 seconds pass with Jim cussing in the background. Jim. This bleeping thing simply won't let me reset my password. Me. Jim, send me a picture of the error message, please, if you can, through your phone or another device. After stumbling around for about 10 minutes, he finally gets around to a picture of the screen to me via his iPad. The error says, "Password is not valid. Enter a new password." Now I understand what Jim is doing wrong. The error for this credential management system, when a password conflicts with a security policy, will generate an error of "Password that was attempted to be entered is not valid. Enter new password." So if your attempt to reset was dollhouse123 and that violated the password policy, the error would say dollhouse123 is not a valid password. Here all this time, Jim was trying to type in his password as the word password, which created the confusing error message. I explained that password, the word, was not a valid password under the new security policies to Jim, who objected at first because he was also under the false impression that only his username and that password would give him access to all of his files. So I also had to explain the concept of how a network user profile also works to Jim in addition to reminding him of the new policy. Total call time, 139 minutes. Good thing I was getting paid by the hour. Okay, even back in the 90s, that's the first thing I learned. Don't ever use the word password as your password. Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me today. If you've enjoyed this content, would you do me a favor? Consider giving this video a like, subscribe to the channel, and maybe click that little bell icon so you don't miss the fat guy with the beard telling you stories. See ya!